this glowing gold shithead?
Kaiser, first stun him with a dodge and then get in his face. That gold enemy has
You
shield.
know the drill.
So enjoy chopping. Way to go! You took him apart.
Sometimes this job can feel like a lot of work. I played a game that gave me a headache. It was so disappointing and so not fun to play. I'm talking about the new Contra Rogue Core. I checked this out on the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox One just to see if there was any huge differences with the visual sort of fidelity and the quality. I first started to play this on the Nintendo Switch and I was completely shocked at how abysmal it looked on my big screen TV. It looks a little bit better obviously in portable mode, but this is a really, really bad looking game.
You don't want to get crushed.
It looks like a Nintendo 64 game. In fact, it looks so much like a Nintendo 64 game, I went and checked out a couple of cartridges on my Nintendo 64. One of them was F.R.E.A.K.S from Midway, like 1996 era, and there's actually a cybernetic character that looks like one of the characters in Contra Rogue Core. And another one I played was Robotron 64, which is a remake of the classic dual-stick shooter Robotron. And that's what they've done here with Contra Rogue Core. It's a dual-stick shooter. On the surface, I love that concept. I'm a huge fan of dual-stick shooters, which were invented by one of my favorite game developers of all time, Eugene Jarvis. Robotron is one of my favorite games, period. And I just love that idea, that mechanic of being able to run in one direction and fire in another one. I thought, okay, well, it's a bit different for Contra, but it's a mode that seems to kind of work with the over-the-top insanity that a Contra game kind of promises. Now, there is a lot of over-the-top insanity in this game, but it's very clumsily built, and you're going to find yourself constantly struggling to kind of see all of the stuff that's shooting at you, because you've also got other mechanics in there. You can jump over obstructions, you've got to leap to try to grab all of these vials of yellow goo, which are counting down and will eventually explode, so you're sort of looking at all nooks and crannies and trying to get there, but you've got these massive bosses and really poorly constructed polygonal creatures that are going to block your sight and block where you're supposed to go, and you're going to find yourself completely lost in whatever direction you're supposed to go, and it becomes unendingly dissatisfying and frustrating. It's too bad, because I think there are some pretty decent concepts in here. I like the idea of this new cast of characters. One of them is kind of a retrofitted redux of some of the super soldiers that we've done, but he's got a giant drill in his hand and all kinds of robotic stuff all over him. Of course, you can augment the character and add all kinds of new weaponry on them. You've got a giant overgrown mutated panda with a massive Gatling gun type deal, and there's grenade launchers and things like that you can throw on these different characters. One of them is like an overgrown mutated bug type creature, and one of them actually is this super fast kind of lady samurai that's got a sword stuck into her, sort of a festering creature inside of her stomach. Interesting character designs, and I actually liked a lot of the cut sequence stuff. I actually talked with Emilio Lopez, who's one of the artists that did the cut sequence work in here, and I thought the storytelling and sort of the build-up to this game was actually pretty damn interesting, and then it's just completely squashed by the repetitive nature and the clumsy sort of level design and the ambiguous goals and challenges that you have to get. There's some, somewhat interesting boss fights with giant robots and giant squishy mutated brains and things like that. And, it's always fun to blast at an army of different kind of mutated enemies and stuff and see them just blow up in little puffs of goo. And the mechanics are okay in places, but it's such a kludgy mess, Even the idea of loading in between stages where it's like, okay, I made it to this door and then the door's gonna blow apart and then I'm gonna load into another stage which looks exactly the same as the stage that I just left. And then you'll beat a few levels and maybe the scenery will change from a city kind of area to a park level, and then you're gonna go back to a city level, so that you're seeing a lot of repeated stuff over and over again. This game just does not feel contemporary, does not feel current, and even though there's Contra pedigree sort of overseeing this title, it doesn't deliver on the Contra promise. One of the biggest challenges that this game faced is we just had the incredible Contra Anniversary Collection. We've just seen hardcore on the Genesis Mini. And I even took a look back at Contra Rebirth on the Wii to see how that one holds up to 2019 standards, and it's actually really fun. And I also looked at hardcore Uprising on Xbox One. It was a 360 game that's backwards compatible on my Xbox One. It was in my library. I said, sure, let's check this out. And it actually played really well. That one's made by Arc System. And then I had to go back to Contra Rogue Core and, this inane menu system where you get a billion different things after you complete a level, but somehow you don't have the currency to be able to upgrade the way that you want to, because you got to put it's just so convoluted and silly. I do like that there's a sense of humor about having to go see crazy doctors that are going to do a lot of these transformations on you, and there's a black market where you can eventually eke out enough cash so you can start to buy some stuff to kind of augment yourself. But you have to tolerate the numbing gameplay, and that's a real challenge. They did throw in multiplayer in this game. You can play this couch co-op, which I think if you're gonna play this, endure it with somebody else. That would be the preferred way to do it. I didn't have anybody with me, so I played it alone until I said, look, I'm having trouble with this boss. Let's get online and see if anybody's playing and play some co-op. Nobody's playing. Nobody was playing on the Switch. Nobody's playing on the Xbox One. I think the word is out, and this game is very disappointing. And I am extremely disappointed because, this has been a celebratory year for Contra. It's like Contra is back in all of its glory, and then we get this trash pile, man. This is just such a deflating experience, and it just doesn't fit. And there's that indie game, that Blazing Chrome game that I reviewed, which is excellent as well. There's just so many different developers that would have kicked ass with this concept. There's lots of indie titles that deliver action that's much superior to this, visuals that are much superior and more interesting than this. I just don't know what happened here, man. Konami just really didn't choose the right group of people to build this game. It's insufferable. I'm whining, I'm complaining, I get it, I know, but that's how this game made me feel. It gave me a frickin' headache. Contra Rogue Core is just a massive bummer, man. It's just not fun to play. 3.5 out of 10.